Welcome, welcome. We meet to discuss a fun full moon in Gemini taking place Monday, November 27th, 2023. And yes, I am saying fun with a bit of sarcasm, as there are some heavy-handed energies taking place these weeks. So let's go in and discuss. But first of all, speaking of heavy-handed, I had an emergency cancellation of my last weekend's Q&A, so I apologize for any inconvenience about that. And if you would like to catch our next Q&A, we're going to do our redo this coming Saturday, November 25th, so we can talk about what the heck's going on in your life, meandering through these times. Now, full moon in Gemini is a meander in itself. Gemini is one of the four mutable signs. So we've got the sun in Sagittarius opposite to the full moon in Gemini, and this full moon also T-squares Saturn. So there is a bit of some hard-hitting reality, some hard-hitting truth-telling, and there are truths to tell. There are things to communicate. This is a Gemini full moon, all about communication, ideas, writing, explaining the how, the why, the breakdown. Gemini breaks apart our surrounding environment into bits and pieces of information so to comprehend what the heck's going on. Our relationship to all of the above, our relationship to one another. So there's a lot of talking, big releasing, can also be a bit sharp and intense, as we'll discuss. But this is an out of bounds full moon ruled by an out of bounds Mercury in Sagittarius. So there can be a little bit of truth telling, but also maybe a bit of exaggeration. So bear that in mind, that it's like what's written on the rear view mirror. Objects may appear a little bit closer than they actually are. Let's bear that in mind when we're having these discussions that can be quite intense. We've got the full moon in Gemini opposite to Mars in Sag as well. That is a stereotypically debatey, defensive, protective, reactive period that we are in. And we've been in such a period for a while. There has been a culmination, a boiling beneath the surface. And now we're starting to see what's poking above the surface. What is the reality? What is the unspoken truth? What no one else dared to say? This is starting to make its way to the surface. Now, most especially, we may be feeling this a little bit more heavy-hearted, particularly today on, let's see, today's the 22nd. We have Venus in the sign of Libra opposite to Chiron in Aries. Now, Venus transiting the South Node in Libra is, first of all, this necessary reliving or reflecting on the past, which is especially taking place through relationships, through the mirror of the other. And with this Venus South Node opposite to Chiron on the North Node simultaneously, this can also be a reflecting on past wounds. We're remembering wounds of the heart. We're remembering relational wounding dynamics. And there is an opportunity to change these things, as we'll discuss. Not simply the who, but the how we are relating. And specifically, Libra-Aries polarity has to do with the polarity between the need for love, connection, collaboration, and sharing, which Venus in Libra is really feeling deeply as a core need, transiting the moon south node. Hey, who loves us? Who's our family? Who cares about us? Who has our back? And at the same time, Chiron transiting the north node in Aries is driving this need for individuality, for necessary freedom, for necessary space to go our own way. So that's where this Venus-Chiron opposition, exact today, the 22nd, can bring up this healing through the mirror of the other. There can be a piercing of the heart, a cathartic releasing of deeper emotions as we come to terms with this deeper reality, the distance between self and other, the discrepancy between the ideals of our relationship versus what it is we're actually building and how we're leading and working and using our energy and our direction throughout our day to day. So this is, again, a heart hurting, a heart clearing out, and a heart healing. And this is to bring in Chiron and Aries. So this is where there may be necessary separations. Healing through separation is one of the potential healing paths of Chiron in Aries. And this is about healing codependency. This Venus Libra opposite to Chiron and Aries is going to bring up all of these codependent themes where Chiron and Aries is asking us to initiate our own way. We each must go our own way in a certain way. And that's coming up for each and every one of us in highly unique ways at this time. There are things to stand up for. There's things to protect. We need to get up on our soapbox. There's new trails to, trailblaze. There's new paths to carve out. And there is a journey of self-discovery of which only we ourselves can be on. And that journey of self-discovery can oftentimes feel like a wandering through the desert type experience. Who am I? What do I want? If nobody else is in the room, if there's nobody to take care of, if there's nobody to distract myself with, where do I go? What do I do? And that is the healing of Chiron in Aries. And the tendency with Venus now being opposite to that Chiron in Aries is to run the opposite direction. We're each being called to initiate our own way, and we're feeling that pain of separation, and so we can easily run into the direction of surrounding ourselves by other people. At least dive into somebody else's world, or we can take care of somebody else instead of taking care of ourselves, or we can overly identify with being a parent, and then our whole life is about taking care of our child, and then we don't have to remember that we ourselves exist, our unmet needs, our unmet desires, which then turns into all of these frustrations and depressions that get swept under the rug until we get these particular triggers and turning points, which is ongoing through this weekend. 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th. These are some rather tense days. We've got the South Node ruler, Venus, in that opposition to Chiron today, then squares Pluto at the last degrees of Libra, Monday, December 3rd, before Venus goes into Scorpio, December 4th through 29th. And that's when we're getting real with our relationships. It's like Venus and Libra this last month has been more of the ice cream cones and dates and what if and could we live this way, and I like this about you and you like this about me, and we could do these types of collaborations. And now Venus squares Pluto and we start to really go into a transformation of our core ideals, and that's a turning point we're in right now. We are in a redirecting period. End of November and the start of December 2023. This is Venus square Pluto and Mars square Saturn simultaneously. It's a tense weekend. The Venus square to Pluto is where we have this exploration of passion, where it's like, this is what I really value. This is what I'm really passionate about. This is what I really want to share. And that individual sense of taste, passion, even the music we like to listen to can be going through a fundamental rounding of a corner at this particular time. And this can be affecting our relationships. It's like Venus and Libra. We thought we really wanted to do these things together. We really thought we were all on the same page. And then Venus goes opposite to Chiron, and we're having this discussion about difference and discrepancy and the need for freedom. We get too much on top of each other, and we merge and we collapse into this codependency, and then we forget one another. We get really frustrated, and then we push one another away, and we distance ourselves and get isolated and alienated and left alone in the dark. So back and forth, we're going through this mechanism to change how we're relating, not just who, but how. So we can have freedom within our relationships, as opposed to relationships or freedom. And do you understand how radical and revolutionary that is? This is not traditionally how relationships have been, or what family unions or marriage have been about. Freedom within relationships is a fundamentally new thing, and it's where a lot of pioneering, a lot of psychotherapy, and a lot of exploration is taking place collectively by the entire human species. Okay, so there's a lot of healing of the heart, healing through the mirror of the other, and then getting real as Venus goes into Scorpio, December 4th to 29th. This includes looking at the actual power dynamics. This is when we're starting to look at the fear of betrayal. This is when we're starting to look at this grabbing onto the other because we need them, or pushing the other person away because we distrust them, and looking at these deeper, unconscious, underworld magnets. Power, manipulation, pushing buttons, push this way, react this way, back and forth. This is to bring us into a deeper holding of our core passions. And who and how can we share those passions with others so we are not sacrificing our individuality, our passion? Our true desire nature must be leading us through life. We must honor that spark of motivation and will to live. That's Mars. Mars is ruling the moon's north node in Aries through this next year, 2024. It's all about learning Mars. How do we honor this direction, this will to live, this energy that's strong, that's confident, that's courageous enough to go against the grain when necessary, courageous enough to open up that new doorway and explore where nowhere else has dared to explore when necessary. That is the Martian warrior gladiator capability. And we're stepping into that. We're initiating ourselves into that. Again, a large reflection astrologically is Chiron in Aries on the moon's north node. Now, we've got all planets in Sagittarius right now. Sun's in Sag through December 21st. Mars is in Sag through January 4th. We'll have Ceres go into Sag this weekend through February 7th. So we've got all this Sagittarius energy that wants to explore, that wants to go on adventures. Lo and behold, coincidentally, there's a lot of traveling that tends to take place around the holiday season, which coincidentally is Sagittarius season. So you've got all this Sagittarius, very buoyant excitement. Let's go, let's travel, let's explore, let's hop in the car, road trip. And then tomorrow, Sun in Sag squares Saturn. Saturday the 25th, Mars squares Saturn. And then next Monday, the 27th, Ceres squares Saturn. And that's where all this excitement, this buoyancy, this optimism, Saturn simply shows up and says, no. No, you wanted to, but you can't. Sag wants the freedom, the openness. No, you're sick. You got to stay in bed. No, your car is broken. You've got to take it into the shop. I guess you won't be making it to dinner on time. You know, the road is closed. I guess, there's no detour that'll be making things shorter for you this time around. This is putting obstacles in our path. We can anticipate some of this Mars-Saturn square this weekend, the 25th, will bring these types of 3D real-world frustrations. There's an obstacle put in our path. The road is closed. And in stereotypical Saturnarian way, this is an initiation into strength, into endurance, into capability. We do somewhat have to grit our teeth. Don't grit them too tight that we have to go to the dentist, but we've got to hop over the obstacle. How else do we hop over the obstacle? What are we going to do? Saturn is what it is. We've got this limited amount of time. We've got these things to check off the to-do list. We've only got so much time to visit so many people, and we've only got so much energy. Saturn is limitation. Mars is energy, fundamental, physical, biological energy, motivation, will to live. Saturn's testing that and challenging that. And through this overcoming of the obstacle. As the saying goes, what does not kill us makes us stronger. Now, there's another big, important part of this dynamic, including harnessing the determination that can go along with this transit, because Mars-Saturn square can also be, I'm gonna hop over this obstacle, I'm gonna climb that mountain, nothing's gonna stop me. Ambition, determination, forcefulness. So we have to be wary of over-forcefulness. And that's where the square between asteroid Ceres, the mother asteroid, squaring the Saturn, is a very useful signature for us to talk about amidst all of these various dynamics. Because Ceres is the principle of nourishment and nurturance. She's like the mother nature figure in Greek mythos. She's where the word cereal comes from, this mother earth, goddess of the grains. She's how we provide care, how we provide nourishment to self and other. Ceres also has so much to do with our own families, our mothers, what feels safe to us, our home, safe space, where we access this in ourselves, where we access this in the world. So this Ceres square to Saturn brings up challenges here. And where especially this comes up is in terms of traditionalism, like these are the traditional roles. You know, mom fills these shoes, dad fills these shoes, man does this, woman does this, so on and so forth. And this is where there's going to be some reviewing and an opportunity for us to reparent our own inner child. It's like, what does it really mean to be nice? What does it really mean to be caring? What does it really mean to be standing up for justice? That's going to be tricky. We're going to have to evaluate this. Because there may be instances, for example, where our inner child gets a punch in the gut type experience, and then the inner child has the sense of justice that it needs to, declare war or attack or point these things out or expose. And it's like, that could be true to a certain level, but then does that become overly forceful? Does that become exaggerated? Does it become too much one size fits all? So we have to take these narratives that have been really, really hyper blown out of place. Like one of the most obvious ones that we talk about all the time is patriarchy and the reality that it's been a male dominant society for many, many thousands of years. We know this, we understand this, we're working through this, and we're living lives that are a lot more complicated than bad guy men ruling over the world and victim women just having to pick up the pieces, right? It's like those have been real historic experiences. That is many people's lives and many places on the planet at this time. But we have to review this narrative. It gets more complex. We have to see how we end up playing both roles oftentimes, how we end up being our own patriarch to our own inner child, and we're oppressing ourselves with these expectations and obligations. Like mother or spouse just has to be a perfect floorboard for their partner or husband, and the husband or the partner just has to be the perfect floorboard for their spouse, and the husband has to take their jacket off and throw it in the mud puddle so the lady can walk across the mud puddle on top of the jacket. Whatever this stupid stuff is, this is where the reparenting is taking place. It is through us being both the parent and the child within ourselves, so to rewrite the rules of the game. What is really nice, what is really caring, what is true justice. Because if we're going to sacrifice all of ourselves to be a good boy or girl because that's what our mommy, daddy, and priest taught us, and then we get all depleted, angry, and resentful, I don't think that's really being nice. And I think the one we're especially lacking kindness towards is ourself. This is the discrepancy between the South Node Libra that wants connection, caring, love, heart to heart, collaboration, and the North Node Aries that wants freedom, open road, space to breathe in my own space, to make my own decisions because I know what I want to do and I can set out and do it on my own. We have to reparent the inner child We have to reparent our own inner grown-up so we can have freedom within our relationships, as opposed to either freedom or relationship. This out of bounds Gemini full moon is also semi-sextile Jupiter in Taurus. New understandings about the body, earth, how we're showing up with others. There's a sesquiquadrate to Venus as well, so we do have to tease our philosophies. We've got to push our politics, make sure that we're working on the same page, that we've got our footing together. But there can be these hidden blessings. There can be these mystical alignments, synchronicities, coincidences. We will see this as Neptune stations direct the first week of December as well. There is a mystical backdrop beneath all of the intensities and dramas that on the surface can be quite nitty-gritty, quite intense, quite cutthroat these days. So let's remember to keep our chin up. I am, as always, wishing you the very best. And if you have any questions about any or all of what's taking place in your life, we're meeting for our forthcoming Q&A. Again, it's this November 25th. Apologies if I missed you this last weekend, but I look forward to catching you on Saturday the 25th. Wishing you the very best, my friends, fans, followers, lovers. Thank you for being out there, holding it down, being your own unique expression of this collective evolution we are going through. We are all in it together. And it is an honor to serve as a reminder of just that. And thank you for your feedback, your thumbs up, your comments, your sharing really, really helps me. And your feedback helps to remind me of just the same myself. Again, wishing you the best, and please do take care.